Happy Thursday to our mortgage and real estate world. Welcome to our 9 o'clock edition of Coffee with Todd, and welcome to our VIP experience. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we invite some special guests on, and we spend about 30 to 35 minutes just interacting with them on best practices, how they're doing business during the COVID, season, if you will, and really what brings their business to life. What are their best practices? And today is going to be super special because we have the opportunity to spend our time with Teresa O'Dette, who is a mortgage professional of the most serious kind. She's hitting high trust on all notes, making money, not working a lot of hours, and having really, really great partnerships. One of her partnerships is with Linda Granger, and Linda is a top producing real estate agent. I believe in 2019, Linda sold just under $60 million in houses with about 70 units, as I recall. And you guys are cranking together. So I want to welcome Teresa and Linda from Northern California. Good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for joining today. And it's always kind of fun for me when we get to have a real estate professional and a lending professional on who are uniquely doing the business in the way that we've always seen done ourselves, obviously, but then dreamt that other people would gravitate to and get excited about. So let's start, Teresa, with just a quick setup. Give us your quick story on your lending experience. You don't have to go all the way back. I think you started as an assistant, but what's your quick story on lending? How did you get into lending, and how long you been at it? What's that all look like?
Random application for a job to be an assistant. Didn't know for what. Right, with Harry Gordon, if you remember.
I remember.
It was 1998, and within the first 6 months, he sent me to High Trust. So I don't have any other experience. This is the only way I know how to do it.
Yay. And last year, Teresa closed 90 loans, $51 million in volume. And what makes that so special, besides the largeness of it, is she has a life. I mean, it's just amazing to see what can happen when you really, really understand the power of high trust. So, Linda, you and Teresa have been doing business together for quite a while. And we were talking earlier before we went live that you guys have been doing business together for 12 years. Tell us your story real quick, and then let's get into what makes it so special as you guys work together.
So I basically was raising 4 kids, and we had no money at all. And I thought I better do something. And real estate was the only thing where I thought I could make enough money to support the 4 kids. And if I was going to put them in daycare and things like that. So long story short, I just went in with both feet, didn't sell one single home in the first year, and then met Teresa eventually, and then took it from there. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. All right. So here's how we're going to do this. Any of you that are watching live, if you'd like to post a question for Teresa or Linda, go ahead and do that in the live comments section. We're monitoring that as we go along. If at any time you want to give us an emoji or a positive, this, that, or the other thing, if you like something that we're talking about, go ahead and do that too. So let's talk about how you guys started in the high trust journey together, and what did that look like in the first couple of years? Whoever would like to go.
I'll go on that. Oh, go ahead. Okay. Only because it was literally what turned my life around in my business. And I wasn't working with Teresa and her team. I was new in the business. I was starting to get, probably, I don't know, maybe 6 million or 10 million is sort of what my volume was. And one day, one of our clients had Teresa and her team as their lender. And I was a complete junk show. My business was a junk show. My kids were dirty. Like, it was just a complete mess. And so Teresa and her team, they were so organized, so calm, and so just together. I couldn't believe the communication when in working with them. So I just finally just said, how did you learn what you learned? How can you teach me? Can you teach me? I want to have a team like yours. I want to be as relaxed as you. I want to have that communication. Can you teach me? And the next day on my desk was a stack of 10 CDs, and it was called The Assistant System by Todd Duncan. And that was on my desk, and I was so hungry. I just started listening to it, and it's all about mortgage and everything, but I could relate it to real estate. And long story short, that was the start of the relationship, the working relationship that we have today.
So I think one of the obvious things that I would say to everybody watching this is, the gift of a lifetime. You want to talk about really launching great partnerships is pay attention to what people want and give them solutions to it. The fact that you got all 10 CDs in that box and had, I don't know, I think it was 8 hours of content. That was awesome. So then what happened next? Because you were all funked out and everything, and Teresa's all like just super, super calm and chill. What did you guys do next? How did you get the thing going?
I think it's noteworthy, though, before we get onto that question, that she came to me.
Right.
She came to me. I didn't go with the unique value proposition and, the special FedEx. She came to me and said, please help me. So that's noteworthy. Right?
So here's the deal. For any of you that are lenders, you do need to hear what Teresa just said. It's a paradigm that most people don't ever really think about, let alone own. And that is when your reputation in the marketplace is such of giving value, having predictability, producing great buyer experiences, having a great reputation, and all of those things, the agents that want that don't have it for whatever reason will approach you instead of you approaching them. And I think this was interesting that you followed that whole idea of giving before you get, right? And you were paying attention to something that Linda had asked you, and you gave her the solution, and the rest is history. And I think that's a noteworthy point. So then back to the question, what was next? What did you guys do next to get things scaling?
Well, and sort of back to Teresa's noteworthy point was that I asked, there were two things. I asked because her team demonstrated what I want. And so there was right out of the gates, this trust that she knew what she was doing. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was her willingness to help me. I was absolutely blown away. So first she sets these 10 CDs on my desk, which I then downloaded onto, remember those little tiny iPods?
Yes.
And every time I would, be outside with the kids or whatever, I'd have you playing in my head. But she was so willing to help. So I listened to all that stuff, and, I'm not Teresa. We're completely different personalities. So I don't learn it doesn't work so easily for me. But then I went to hire my first assistant, and Teresa said, well, would you like me to interview your assistant? Would you like me and my team to interview your assistant for you? And I was blown away. I said, are you kidding? You do that for me? And she said, absolutely. So literally the assistant went through all the interviews with her team first, then Teresa interviewed them. And I had sort of chosen one just by resume and whatever. And we picked a completely different one that turned out amazing. And so that was the start. And so those two things for me that she and her team demonstrated what I wanted. And second was the willingness to help me. I can't even tell you, like having her assistant stand over my shoulder and teach me how to go through my email and get rid of this and get rid of that and delegate this and delegate that. There was nothing that her team wasn't willing to help us with. She even sent her number one assistant in to train my assistant. Like it was just over and above anything I would have ever expected from anyone. So those were my two main things that just blew me away.
Wow. I don't know where we go from there, except to say that we have another high-performing realtor in the live chat from Kentucky, and you guys know Jim Moore, and he just said, this is awesome. And so for an agent right now to post on live comments that he loves this dialogue, that to me is just another endorsement. So let's get into a little bit of the tactical stuff, Teresa, unless you have something else that you'd like to say about you know what? I'm going to ask you, Teresa, what was the mindset and what is the mindset? You're not only a top producing mortgage professional, you have absolutely scaled the summit on how to do business well, profitably, and efficiently. And you also were the first person that I called to when we decided to launch High Trust Coaching. You were my first coach that I wanted to cast the vision with. And I remember being on the freeway going to LA and having that combo with you. So you are our longest standing certified coach as well. Talk from both the coaching perspective and obviously the partnership perspective with Linda about your spirit and your whole like operating system, because I think most lenders still don't get in modern day society what you did with Linda 12 years ago. I completely think they miss it. So just talk through that for a minute or two.
Well, it's easy to sum it up. It's servant leadership, period. And, you know, my team takes care of my transactions completely. I hardly touch them. I have 1 or 2 conversations with borrowers. They take care of the rest. So what do I do all day? Help them, help the realtors, right? Whatever I can do to help them become more successful. And Linda could probably give you 1,000 different examples of things that I've done for her. Mm-hmm. That really, there's no direct correlation to my profitability other than supporting her. And therefore, she's absolutely and completely tied to my team.
Yeah.
Loyal.
Well, so, you know, loyalty it's always a two-way street. And I think everybody needs to understand that the truest partnerships are win-win. And I was talking, I think a couple of weeks ago about chemistry and what attracts a lender and a realtor in terms of likability. You know, I like you and you like me, and it's a professional chemistry. And once you have that, then you want to communicate, you want to collaborate, you want to build, you want to add value, you want to do those things. And when you do that, you end up with that magic connection. And when you have a connected relationships like you have with Linda and other agents like Jim Moore has with Marty Preston, that is an extraordinary place to get, because the relationship becomes more effortless. Do you guys find that to be true, that you're so in sync that you're not managing the relationship? It's just that constant kind of hum, right?
Yeah, at this point, it is pure relationship because my team works with her team. We don't actually talk much about buyers, borrowers, you know, transactions. It's her transaction coordinator and my processor.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so one of the questions we wanted to ask both of you, and then I have a few individual ones. What's your referral process look like? I guess we can go both ways, but Linda, as an agent, what does your process look like when you're working with buyers and sellers who are going to be buying as you refer them over to Linda? And then Linda, your comments on that, because I do want to say to everybody watching this live broadcast or watching the replay, I think one of the greatest places for an efficiency that has probably for most lenders never been attained is how do you guys pass off the referrals back and forth? And I think any lender and any agent that really asks the question, is this level 10? Is this like gold medal kind of stuff? If the answer is yes, then our conversion is up, our loyalty is up, our retention is up, our deals falling through is gone. So talk about your referral process and give everybody as much depth as you can on that.
So that actually was another huge thing for me, because I didn't really know how to refer a lender. And I actually now use it in the same when agents want to refer a client to me. And what Teresa did was she gave me the script in writing, email of how to introduce her. And that template that I saved, I've used that same template for 12 years. Any buyer's agent on my team or anyone that works on my team, when we want to introduce Teresa, we use that same template, same exact one. We copy and paste it. And that alone is huge, because what's different about it is most mortgage brokers, or if you will, or whether it's a home warranty person, whoever it is, they're always asking you for your business, but they don't give you the tools to help you help them. And so the same template, you know, and I can recite it, blah, 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 whether you use her or not, it will be a valuable use of your time. Teresa can be reached. Teresa and her team can be reached out. You know, I know the template. Everybody knows the template. So that was number one. Number two is I never subscribed to the idea that you have to have 3. You have to refer 3 mortgage brokers. And I know there's a lot of legal stuff around that, but the line in the template that I feel makes it comfortable for me is whether you use her or not, it will be a valuable use of your time. So I'm not pushing them to use only her. I'm just saying, go to Teresa to get information. And from there, it's up to her. And then the other process of it is when I'm working with the trust I have in Teresa and her team is I know that when they get on the phone with a buyer, they're going to endorse me. Hands down, they're going to endorse me. And I can email them and say, hey, I'm not sure, this client is also working with another agent. I've spent time with them, da, da, da. And then I know that they will endorse me and they'll tie that relationship up. And I can't tell you how many times they have saved or gotten that buyer to commit to me. And having that trust in them from the referral perspective is awesome. So I know I can just hand it over. They'll take it from there. I don't even have to think about it again. And I know they got this.
That is huge. So Ray, you're in the background. Just make a note reminder that maybe on High Trust Today, which is our private Facebook group, we can post those templates. We have the 3 scripts, obviously, and it'd probably be really helpful for people. I love you trusting what works. And I also love, Teresa, you know this as a coach, we teach one timing, right? And Linda just proved out that this template that she's been using for 12 years is the same template. I mean, there's so much opportunity in our world not to recreate or reinvent, but just to get the discipline of here's what works and it's routine and we're going to use it every single time. Talk from a coaching standpoint about the symmetry that lenders and agents need to have. You are a lender, but at a coaching level, people come into High Trust Coaching. And again, if you guys haven't had a free coaching call yet and you're watching this, do that. Come and let a coach talk to you. What are you seeing from a coaching perspective on how these relationships have just a void that doesn't need to be there, that can be removed by this kind of symbiotic energy together? Just talk through that for a second, whatever comes to mind.
Sure. I think most loan officers or originators, there's a fear there. It's sort of a call reluctance where they don't want to say to an agent, here is the script for you to refer me. And that way, as part of the script, Linda gives me the phone number of the client, right? And says, Teresa will call you. I mean, I'm not waiting for someone to call, right? Most agents, realtors will say, I'll give them your number. And most loan officers don't have the confidence to say, why don't you give me their number, right? And I think that's the big gap. It's sort of a call reluctance issue, and you just need to gain confidence around the scripting and know that, you can get 100% of nothing or 50% of something if you make the call, right? So you have nothing to lose if you ask for that. Would you agree, Linda?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't really even ask if they want me to pass their information on or not. I just introduce them and say, Teresa, here's their number, and client, here's Teresa's number. You guys take it from here. I don't even ask. That's just part of the template.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's interesting that one of the things that we miss, Linda, to your point, is we don't state what we want to have happen. One of the greatest deficiencies is the mindset, whether you're a lender or an agent, what's next? And what's next is, I'm going to have Teresa call you, or what's next is, you need to call Teresa. I think it's better the other way. Let Teresa take the lead. And one of the things that you mentioned that I want everybody to understand is there is value in your lending partner by her endorsing you as a high performance realtor. And if you've got a buyer that, might have 2 different agencies that they're talking to, you're going to win the business because your lender is your mouthpiece, right? And endorsing you. And so those are all part of strategic embedded strategies that High Trust teaches. And you can see right now, if you're watching this interview, how peaceful this kind of business is when you understand that we're here and we're like 2 gears working together. So super excited about this. Let's go to Linda. As an agent, how have you incorporated the High Trust business practice into your specific business? What are 2 or 3 things that kind of besides what we've talked about?
So I guess tried to channel my inner Teresa, which is really her inner Todd, right? The number one thing is learning how to listen. And I think that's what the whole high trust thing is, right? And by asking those questions, what about that is important to you? And moving forward along down that chain, I would say the number one thing is learning how to listen. And that is, and while that seems easy for real estate agents, it's not. You guys know real estate agents have egos. They one up everybody in their stories. They, just go on and on and on. Whereas I don't know if all mortgage brokers, but I know Teresa is a person of not a lot of words, but when she talks, you listen, right? So I think that's been the number one thing for the high trust. And the second is, and this is through high trust and through what Teresa has taught me, is everyone is part of my team. And so she introduced me to the title officer that is the best title officer, the appraiser, and so we have this team, if you will, even though we're all different companies, and everyone has everyone's back. Nobody blames anyone for anything. We cover each other. We stand up for each other. If somebody makes a mistake, wow, that's not like her at all. That doesn't sound like her at all. Let's dig in and figure out how to solve that. But now we have this tremendous team that we know will endorse us. And there's this trust in those relationships.
Yeah. Teresa, just your 2 cents on listening, and then I'd like to propose something to everybody watching this interview.
Listening, well, I mean, when I met Linda, she was your typical agent. This is how great I am. This is why I'm going to win the business from you, for the client. And one time we were in the car together on our way back from a meeting, working with the same client, and I just called my assistant and said, you need to call these people. And Linda's like typing and dealing and like frenetic, right? And what she used to do, and what I don't do, and really have never done since, day one was with you, is to talk about myself. Well, now Linda's got the whole same script. Tell me what's important about that to you. And then just stop talking, which was really hard lesson to learn. We worked together for years to get into this rhythm. And, for the record, when I met her, it was 10 million a year. And where are we now, right? And that's obviously not attributable to me, but her skills have gotten better, and significantly because of all of this.
Yeah, and the neatest thing about what you guys have done to spin up the business is you're not frenetic. It's a well-oiled machine, and anybody watching this needs to understand that your productivity from a growth standpoint has everything to do with the gears of your relationships, right? And when we talk about the whole idea of connection, if you don't have a connected state of being with the people that you are doing business with, I mean connected, I mean like together. If you don't have that, then you have inefficiency in your relationships, and inefficiency is the front end of dysfunction. And so part of what you guys all have to do is you have to decide the relationships that you are attracted to that make sense. And when you start to have conversations, really listening starts before you guys ever do business together. A lender and an agent together have to listen to really, really understand what's important about the relationship and that chemistry, that professional, chemistry. Tim Sanders used to talk about, love is the killer app, the idea of likelihood, right? And likability and all of that. So before any of this greatness can happen, you've got to have shared values. You've got to have similar beliefs. If a lender believes in productivity and efficiency and an agent does not, that thing's never going to work. Vice versa, it's never going to work. So that's important. Then what both Linda and Teresa said is this idea of listening. And here's what I believe about where the huge opportunity is. And I'd be interested from your perspective, Teresa, as a coach. I think far too many agents, let me just go on. I think 90% of agents and 90% of lenders don't ask the right questions Okay, they don't learn the right things. They don't solve the most important needs, and they don't know how to listen. And so in high trust, it's not about how many questions you ask. It's about asking fewer of the right questions that create a tectonic shift in emotional connection. And both Linda and Teresa have evidenced that. If you don't know the questions to ask, and if you're not professionally patient to listen, and even delayed responses that might seem like minutes, even though they're 10 or 15 seconds, for you not to fill in the answer and to wait for it to come is the greatest gift you can ever bring to a partnership. So I think that if you ask fewer of the right questions and you listen. Here's what I know about listening. Princeton has done a study on listening. And if you can marry eye contact to a curious mind of listening, you have as high as a 33% increase odds of winning that client. Let me just say it differently. He who listens the best, she who listens the best wins. It's that simple.
Question.
Huh? Yeah.
No question. I mean, people tell me things and then they talk. Like if I take an agent to lunch, I ask a few questions, they talk the whole time, tell me the most intimate details of their life, and then walk away thinking that we had this really amazing connection and conversation when it was really one-sided, right? Yeah. They did all the talking, I did all the listening. But I mean, Linda can attest to that. People tell me things that are just off the wall.
Well, and I think I think as you look at some of these live posts, it's so important to understand there's so much noise out there on how to be successful. And, there's so much marketing noise and so much digital noise and so much what success is in our space: agent, lender, home buying, home selling, home borrowing. What our space is two people who care about each other, that want the best possible outcome for their buyer and seller, and do it at level 10. And there's nothing mystical about it. There's no manipulation about it. There's no here's the most manipulative question you can ask, and they're not even going to know you're manipulating them. There's none of that. It's the human being wanted to connect with the human being so that you guys together can do human doing, right? What do we do now that we like each other and we're in business together? So, I mean, we could go off on this. Lynn, I'm going to ask you a question. What are the top 3 things agents should ask to qualify a lender?
The top 3 things agents should ask to qualify a lender.
Like what would be the 3 things you as an agent? I know it's probably an unfair question because you're so connected to Teresa and vice versa, but what's important to an agent about a lender besides what you've said so far?
Well, one of the things I think is almost a feeling that agent is, or that mortgage broker, mortgage professional is plugged in and learning, constantly learning and listening, right? So that's number one, is just a feeling of having this trust that they're plugged in. They're not just, a mortgage professional from 30 years ago who's doing the same thing. They're plugged in, learning and growing. Second is endorsement. And third is communication.
Yeah.
With the client, really. I mean, yes, it could be communication with me, but generally I have so much trust in Teresa's team. Like, they have it. So I don't need a ton of communication with me. Call me if there's a problem and call me with the solution, right? I mean, call me, and that's the same phone call.
Yeah, efficiently.
Right? But it literally just goes back to, how does that mortgage professional treat me? Because that will demonstrate how they're going to treat a client. If that mortgage professional is off blaming the title person or this person or that person for their problems, then I know that's how they're going to be with the client as well. So it's this persona of, how do they treat me? And because I know I can trust them in how they treat the client.
I love that. Totally love that. So from your perspective as an agent, what is in your mind the value of having a coach as a real estate professional and a human being?
I think number one, you have to be a person and for mortgage professionals, you have to find the agents who want to learn, who are hungry, right? Hungry for information. Those are the ones I think that you'll have the best relationship long term. The ones like Teresa said that are asking you. The having a coach. I mean, I can email Teresa and say, hey, I have this client that said X. Do you have a script for me? Or we can be in a transaction, and I know how agents are, because I'm one that I can get emotional, and I can write this email that's super emotional, and I can send it to Anj on her team or Teresa and say, can you tell me how this sounds? And they'll rewrite it for me. Like just the things like that are so valuable, because we trust their professionalism and their training, right? Their training from you and the coaching. It's really hard to describe. And I tried to think about how would other agents know to go get this information, or to go find a mortgage professional like I was lucky to find. And really, I think it was just delivering value to me out of the gates without me even, I mean, I did ask for things, but consistently finding ways to deliver value. Linda, you're super busy. Would you like us to go open that house for the client? You know, they're licensed. She'll send one of her team members to go open a house for me. Like those kinds of things where they're listening for what my needs are. And every time I say, wow, you guys would do that for me, right? So that's, I guess, the value of their coaching, and then that is passed on to me.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And I have vivid, indelible pictures in my mind of you guys sitting together in the High Trust Sales Academy and being at Sales Mastery together. And I just want to say to every lender out there, the greatest gift you can bring your agents is help them understand the simplicity of a well-oiled business model, right? And how do you guys learn together? Because the collaboration piece of lender and agent, I think, is missed. I don't think enough lenders have enough proactive scheduling going on where they sit down and do like mini business reviews every month, and they collaborate together on how can we continue to, make this better or not. And Teresa, you have taken this to probably one of the most insane levels of implementation in your own personal business. I'd like for you to talk in just the next couple of minutes of, what does your typical week look like? You've got a high performance agent in your relationship with Linda. You guys are deep, deep friends and do life together and work together and all that kind of stuff. What does your team look like? What is the aha that lenders just don't get in terms of how many hours does it actually take to be great? So just take 2 minutes and walk us through that. And then I have a final question for each of you.
I think the aha is you have to have a team, period. And way back in the day when I was coached by Building Champions, it was Greg Harkavy who said to me, if you hire that person and it costs you $3,000 a month, can you do one more transaction? Okay, then it's break even. If you can do 2 more, it's profitable. 3 more, right?
Yeah.
And I said that to Linda as recently as yesterday. That same thing. How many more transactions can you do if you hire this person, right? We had that conversation this week. But my team, I have an assistant who is my mini me. She's been with me 16 years, which is amazing. She's been obviously to your stuff a number of times.
Yep.
My processor has been with me probably 6 or 7 years. My junior processor, probably 7 or 8. Ephraim has been with me 15 years, my production partner. And that's about it. To answer your question, with that team, I work probably 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Tops.
Yeah. Tops.
And that, I talk to clients and I lead my team and I work with agents. That's all I do.
Yeah. Simple life. It's a beautiful, beautiful life. So what are your top 3, just off the top of your head, top 3 things people need to understand about building teams?
Well, we're naturally attracted to people just like us, which is a terrible hire.
Okay.
Period. Right? I would not hire anyone or recommend anyone without a disc profile and making sure they were right for the position. Any sales position needs I, any support position needs C, and the other two, you can work around.
Yep.
I think other than that, hire great people, empower them, get out of their way, pay them just a little bit more than the market asks for, keep them happy. I mean, I really, this week I spent a lot of time thinking about what I can do to support my team because they're at home with small children.
Yeah.
Right? And I can't send them a babysitter, and I've been delivering wine and other things every Friday just because,
Yeah.
So that's what my day consists of. My 20 hours a week is thinking about how I can help Linda, how I can help my team, how I can help my clients, whatever that is.
It's beautiful, man. As I've always believed, we need to get rid of the word sell, and we just need to replace it with the word help. And if you help enough people win, you're going to win. That's all you have to really focus on. So as we wrap up, Teresa, what are, from your coaching vantage point, why did you choose to become a coach and dedicate time to that? And from a lender perspective, what are the two biggest challenges you see LOs facing today?
Well, I got into coaching because you asked me, and I have enormous and immense respect, and it was an honor to be asked. I continue to do it because giving back is the greatest thing I could do, right? Giving back to our industry in any way that I can.
Yeah.
So that's why I continue to do it. I think the biggest challenges from a boots on the ground, it's capacity for sure. And the discipline right now, depending on where somebody's working from home, to get up and actually do the work.
Yeah.
To stay really focused. I think that's consistent among the people that I talk to. Some get it, some don't, and you can't anticipate that until you're in it.
Yeah. Yeah. What's a recent coaching success story that you're super proud of with one of your coaching members?
Well, I have been a coach with you since day one, right?
Yes.
I've had a client since day one. You'll know who he is, and if he's listening, he'll know who he is. He's been with me the longest. He did 8 million before I started with him, and this year he'll probably do 60.
Wow.
And in those 4 years, it's been single guy, no team, bought a house, got married, had a child, has a team, right? Changed companies twice, and still has all that success and a life.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Beautiful. So, Linda, if you had one opportunity to say one thing that is the most important thing you would say to the lending and real estate world, what would you say?
Plug in to the right people. Plug in to the right coaching. I mean, I have one main coach and 2 other coaches, and plug in. And like for mortgage professionals, plug into you, honestly, because you can't know everything yourself. And even if you're curious and you're somebody who seeks it out, it's awesome to have somebody like you who has a plan and who has steps, and one step at a time. And this is how we get there. And it creates a roadmap for agents and lenders.
I love it. You guys personify what a high trust partnership looks like. It's been delightful to hang with you. Anybody who is a lender that is really, really resonating with this conversation, which it looks on by the feed that you are, send this or sit down and watch this with your agents. If you're an agent and you desire a lender partnership like Linda and Teresa have, sit down and watch this with the lender that you think you'd like to partner with. There's nothing that says we can't re-engineer and reverse engineer these partnerships. But the greatest gift of Coffee with Todd and the greatest gift of Teresa and Linda's time here today is they have shown you as a lender and or an agent what is possible. And if you don't have what they've described, then you're missing the joy of running business and doing life the best way. So share this, forward it, sit down. If you're a team leader, think about how you're serving your agent partnerships and think about how your team is operating. And even today, think about the distance that so many lenders have from agents today because we're in such a deep refinance period of our time. agents need lenders more than ever right now to continue to build the business as we get through COVID. And, and buyers and sellers are going to be coming back in over the summer. And the time to build your partnerships is now. It's not in August. It's to do it now. Do it now. So I am madly proud of both of you guys. And it's an honor to call you friends. It's a joy to watch you guys work together and do life together. And so I just want to say from me to you and from our team to your worlds, thank you so much for spending 40 minutes a day with our tribe. And I know that if you listen to this with the right ears, you have been blessed today because of Teresa and Linda. So yeah. All right. We'll be back on tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock with a 15-minute weekly wrap. And next Tuesday, we're interviewing Jonathan Roach, who is our fitness partner from Sales Mastery. He's going to be coming to us from Vermont live, and we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful conversation on Tuesday. You guys be blessed. Have a great weekend. And thanks for sharing. It was really powerful.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.